I just love to first want to thank you for being here and for taking the time to share your story with me and other women who are watching this. Um, it's really cool just to connect with each and every person, and everybody's story is different. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Yes, absolutely. So let's see. I like to start off with, if you go back to that place where infertility was just, you were facing that and that
Mhm.
only. What was it like for you? And if you could remember, just like how old you were when it started?
Okay, yeah. So my husband David and I were married in October of 2013, and we had actually dated back in high school, and then had a bit of a break. And by the time we came back together as a little bit older adults, we were in our late 20s. We knew we really wanted to start a family. So I was 31 when we were married. David was 32. And it was probably the following January that we really started in earnest trying. So I was 32 and tried for several months. And my sister works in the medical field, and she said, you know, it might not hurt to just go like have some tests done, just to make sure there's nothing going on. And I was like, it hasn't been a year yet. You hear that all the time. It hasn't been a year yet.
Yes.
So, all right, better to rule anything out, just in case. So that August of 2014, I went to a clinic that is a couple hours from here. There was really only one. I'm in New York, and in my area, there's only one real, at that time, um, IVF clinic. That, I mean, anyone that I knew that had gone through this, that's where they went. And so I just happened to search and found one in Rochester, and they were in the process of coming to Buffalo. I'm closer to Buffalo, so I went the 2 hours, um, and just for the initial like blood work, ultrasound. They do all the tests, and they diagnosed me with PCOS. I had no idea what that was. I had never heard those letters before. At that point, I really didn't even think anything was wrong. I was just kind of, you know, trying to be proactive, more or
Yeah.
less. So they gave me letrozole and, kind of sent me on my way. And well, I shouldn't say they they did send me on my way, but I had to come back.
Right.
A couple months later, I had an HSG. They just wanted to make sure that everything was cleared out before, at that point. So about a month later, I'd been on the letrozole, nothing changed, nothing, obviously hadn't gotten pregnant. They did the HSG and everything was good. And so we stayed on the letrozole a few more months. And by this time, it was almost a year now that we had been trying. And the office closer to us was supposed to be open by then and wasn't. So we ended up going to the other clinic because my husband and I felt like it was time to try IUIs. We were open to that. I was really fortunate. My insurance covers unlimited IUIs. Um, at the time, they didn't cover IVF, which seemed a little bit crazy to me.
Yeah.
They covered all of my IUIs. And maybe if they had just covered IVF to begin with, it would have
Huh.
been more cost effective, but that's neither here
Yeah.
nor there. So we did several IUIs with this other clinic. Um, we did, medicated IUIs, injectables, and it was never successful.
So, question for you.
Mhm.
Everything like for your husband, everything, semen analysis, all of it was fine?
Yes. So he was
Okay.
checked also by both clinics, the initial clinic and then the one that we went to secondarily before starting the IUIs. And he, like, I- thank God. he was great, but he likes to brag about how great his results were. So
Mine too.
yeah. So yes, everything with David was all systems go. I
Yep.
just for some reason it wasn't working. Um, and obviously PCOS can be a barrier, but I just didn't think it would be that hard.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we did several IUIs. I think, the clinic started to push towards IVF after the first two or three. But my husband and I were not ready.
Mm.
You hear IVF and we were like, that's just not us. We're never going to need that. We're fine.
Right.
Nothing's really wrong, if we just keep trying and medicine and, whatever. It just seemed like a really big step compared to the treatments that we were doing. And we just weren't ready to make that step. So after, like I said, 6 or 7 IUIs, we actually left that fertility clinic, and th- they were great. It was nothing. I just needed a break after that.
Did you do them back to back?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yeah. From December to June, they were June, July. They were back to
wow.
back. And I really just needed a break from that.
Yeah.
So I I am was very close to my priest at church, and I would talk to him about what we were doing and the struggle I was going through, and really trying to figure out what was going on. And he had mentioned to me, a church approved, natural family planning, and I had a friend that had mentioned that to me as well. And I felt like um, sometimes God like throws a pebble, and then like sometimes he throws a brick. And I kept I kept hearing about this natural family planning. And so I said, you know what? Let's just do that. It's just something, maybe they'll be able to tell me, like maybe my timing is off, maybe something, I don't know, something else is going on. And it's really meant to help a woman get in touch with her cycle. And I mean, quite literally, but I would use it in, um, in the future, if we weren't, I mean, I have a hard time getting pregnant. So it's hard to say like I'd use it not to get pregnant, but you can also use it not to get pregnant. So we abandoned any IVF clinic and moved to getting linked up with a woman that oversees this natural family planning, and it's done through a Catholic church in Buffalo. So we tried some different, more homeopathic things. It was really interesting to me. This is, I don't know if there's ever TMI in the infertility for community, but
Probably not.
a lot of it is like kind of assessing your cervical mucus.
Okay.
So when I, didn't have maybe enough or what they would expect to see, they actually put me on Mucinex, which I thought was really interesting to kind of like loosen up the mucus. I thought, and it actually worked. So I thought that was kind of cool. So from about July of 2015, now we're in 2015 to April of the following year. So almost for an entire year, I met with this woman. We charted everything. We'd meet maybe once a month, once every other month. And she's like, I don't understand why you're not getting pregnant.
Mm,
She's like, your charts are beautiful. You're doing
mm.
exactly what you should be doing. I don't understand. I was like, I don't understand either. Because
Wow.
now I've been to 2 doctors and you, and nobody's quite figured out why. But it's okay, trying to muster some patience. So she sent me to a doctor at the hospital that's able to read the charts. So she looked at my chart and said, kind of the same thing and put me back on letrozole.
Oh man.
So that was in April of 2016. And then in June, I had another HSG test and everything was fine. So the doctor recommended like an exploratory laparoscopic surgery to see if I had silent endometriosis. I had no idea that even existed
Mm.
because I didn't have any signs of endometriosis. But I guess that's why they call it silent. So she said, I can do it laparoscopically, or there is a doctor who will do it robotically, this exploratory surgery. I've never had surgery in my life, thank God. So that made me a little nervous that would be our next option. So I said, well, seeing as my sister sells surgical robots for a living, I'm guessing she's going to insist that I go that route. So it just so happened that the doctor that she recommended for this robotic surgery was the original doctor that I had seen back in Rochester.
Wow.
So the clinic had successfully moved to Buffalo. The doctor came with it, and I really liked him. I think that the clinic that I went to, I know a lot of women have gone to because it is quite cost effective, like cost, it advertises itself as such. And I think if you're coming from out of state or from out of town, it can maybe not have the best experience, but I had a great experience with my doctor and with my clinic. And I think some of that is attributed to the fact that I was here. I was closer to it. I'm still an hour away, but it was closer. So we went back to the original clinic and they reviewed everything. They reviewed everything from the other clinic. They looked at my numbers. My AMH was really good. He's like, you have a ton of eggs. It's time for IVF, is what he told me. He's like, it's time. For some reason, your stuff is not coming together. I will never forget him saying that. He's like, for some reason, it's not coming together. And this is how we're going to navigate that. So that was November of 2017. So we thought about it. He said, I'll have you pregnant by Christmas. And when you've been in it for a few years, that sounds like music to your ears, right? And we were like,
Yes.
okay, well, he's like, do you have any plans for the holiday? And we're like, well, yeah, actually, we're going to Miami for New Year's. He's like, then wait. He's like,
Right.
let's just wait, and when you're ready, come to us. And so, we enjoyed our holiday, tried to mentally prepare, emotionally prepare. I understood from watching so many brave women speak about what they've been through. Like I understood to some degree what we were in for and prayed about it. So in March of 2018, I was, 36 by then. At this point, we started our first IVF cycle. So I had, in April of that year, I had 15 eggs retrieved, 14 fertilized, and 8 were frozen. So we didn't do any PGS, PGD testing. That was an option. But we just felt like for us, like we got to leave something up to God. And if there's they were hoping that I would get 4 embryos. So the fact that I got 8, it was
That's
like,
good.
yeah, the nurse said, "Gosh, you did better than we thought you were going to."
And that's music to your ears when you hear that.
Yeah, and at first I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I'm, 36, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm 36.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was amazing, meant it in the most loving way possible. But I was
Yeah.
like, "That's right. I got my, 8 embryos." So um I had thought about doing a fresh transfer. I Everything seemed like fine. I wasn't overstimulated. Like I really did pretty well through that retrieval process. But for some reason, I never really got an answer to. We ended up just doing frozen, which they had said that I think it's for the best. Ultimately, I think it was for the best. But at the time, you just like, you want to keep going. You're on that train and you just want to keep going.
I have
And
heard I have heard that there's a lot more success with frozen, and there's a lot of clinics that choose to do that,
yeah,
because they have found a lot of success, so maybe that was it?
yeah, and I think ultimately you're right, Selena, because when I asked them, they had kind of told me the statistics in terms of transferring the frozen embryo, and just that they get a little bit of a better outcome, is what they were finding at the time too. So there may be some validity to that. I had also heard at one point, like if you have, depending on what the trigger is, like your trigger shot, if you have like a certain trigger shot, then you can't have a fresh transfer for some reason. And I can't
Got
really
it.
elaborate on that, but then I
Mhm.
start to think like, oh, maybe that's why. Ultimately, it
Okay.
was for the best. So I guess I just don't question it too much anymore.
Right.
So yeah, we did the retrieval in April, and we transferred 2 embryos in May of 2018. One, I could not find the grade of them for the life of me, but
That's
one was
okay.
good. Yeah, one was good and one was fair, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Um, so we did end up doing 2. There was a lot of conversation around that, but being that I was 36 and we had been trying for as long as we had, um,
And
they
you
just
didn't test them.
and we didn't test them. That's correct. That they were willing to let us do 2, because I know that at this particular clinic that's not always the case. They don't always let people do 2, but yeah, there's so many variables. um so May 7th we did our transfer, and we actually had to drive like 3 hours away, because at the time the clinic wasn't doing like transfers or surgeries or anything like that at this location, so we had to drive 3 hours, which was a little crazy. But the retrieval, actually driving 3 hours the day of the like retrieval was, we actually ended up spending the night before, because I'm like, we are not gonna, there are things you can be late for, you cannot be late for your for your retrieval.
That's right.
Yeah, we took extra precautions. So all that to say, on May 13th I got my first ever positive pregnancy test on
Oh.
Mother's Day of 20.
Oh. That's perfect.
Yes, yes, it was really hard to go to church and brunch and do all the Mother's Day things with our moms and not say anything.
I bet.
Yeah. As anyone who's gone through this knows, there's so little that's private. When you're going through it, I mean, unless you really kind of keep it to yourselves. And so my family knew that we were going through the process, um, but we hadn't told them like about the transfer or the details of it, because it's kind of like once you tell them a little bit, they want to know everything. So
Yeah.
we had kept some of that to ourselves. But I got my first HSG a few days after my positive pregnancy test. I had my first HCG, I'm sorry,
Mm.
my first beta. and it was low. It was 49.3. And I remember thinking like, oh, you know what, if I could go back and change like one moment in my life, it probably would be when my husband and I listened to the voicemail from the clinic, because
Mm.
my reaction was dulled because I was comparing that number to other people's numbers. And that in turn, like, kind of ruined the moment for my husband too, because he doesn't
Mm.
have any idea what those numbers mean. He has no clue. And so when I was like, oh, he's like, wait, I thought this was like a happy, she said it's positive. I wish I could change that. But um it just, it is what it, it kind of is
Yeah.
what it is. That's kind of what this road does to you, I think, a little bit. It
Yeah.
can tend to dampen those really happy moments sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
You yeah. It's totally understandable, and yeah, it's true. You go through every step, and that whole term of being cautiously optimistic is so true. I've never heard of that until going through this journey, and there's something to it because you're just scared. You've never wanted something so much in your entire life, and now that it's here and you're closer than you've ever been, you are terrified that it'll be pulled away from you.
mhm.
So, yeah, I
And then
understand.
it's like, wait, I thought it was supposed to be over 100. It's almost like I had too much information. Um, yeah, it is. And that cautiously optimistic, there's few terms that better describe, what you go through in this process.
Yeah.
Um, so my following HCG, the second beta, was 155. So we were like thrilled. The number had tripled, more than tripled, and so we were just, really happy. And then like from then on, things were really pretty great. I had a little
Good.
bit of placenta previa during my pregnancy. So I had some spotting, a little bit of bleeding at like 13 and 15 weeks, but that kind of resolved itself. And
Good.
we were a little bit nervous going into like our first ultrasound because, like I said, we transferred two embryos, to kind of circle
Yes.
back to that. Um, but we were very, when I heard that number initially in the beta, I said, we're getting one. With that 49, I was like, we're getting one. And God willing, that baby's going to hang on. And she did. She did.
Aw,
So
wonderful.
we had a little girl, Camilla, in January of 2019.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh, so how old is she now?
She's 2. She turned 2 in January. Um, and it, it's this, it's this amazing kind of push and pull of like wanting to keep her little, but enjoying so much of who she's becoming and her having some independence. And she's just, she's everything to us.
Oh, I
Mm.
love it.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're just, when you say that you're in awe of Valen, like that is how I feel.
Yeah, every day, right? When they do
Yeah.
something new or the way that they look at you or oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Um, if
She
you
grabbed my face yesterday, sorry, and she, with her little
oh,
hands, and she said, "Cutie pie," and I just lost it. I was like, "You're so."
that's adorable. I would lose it too. Oh, anytime she like grabs me like that, I just melt.
I know, the way to our heart. It's very sweet.
Yes, yes. Um, if you could go back to that woman that you were before you started infertility and you say something, if there's something you could have told her that maybe could have helped her along the way,
Yeah.
what would that be?
Oh gosh. Um, I think a big thing for me is just managing expectations.
Mhm.
I think when you hear that most women are pregnant within a year or two of trying to conceive, that's your expectation. We're trying and we're doing what we are supposed to be doing. And for some reason, it's not really working. So just, really managing those expectations and um, to not be so hard on yourself
Mhm.
if you need help. Um,
Yeah.
it's a hard thing when your body won't do the thing that it was meant to do, or you're told that it was meant to do, and you can't control it as much as you try. You can't control it. So, um, yeah, to just give yourself some grace. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and have some people that you can talk to, or a person. I mean, I was very fortunate. My husband and I, when I wanted to push forward, we pushed forward. When I wanted to stop, we stopped. We were very much on the same page through the process. And that's not to say that he wasn't involved, or that he was apathetic towards the process. He just, so often we were just like both feeling that, it was time to do X or Y, or not do X or Y. We were very much on the same page about the treatments. And I'm very grateful for that. So just, communicate with your partner in the best way that you can. And um, yeah, I guess that would be what I would say.
Yeah, that's good. And I like to follow that with, is there anything else that you would tell someone who's just learning that they're going to have to need help to build their family?
Yeah.
Um, is there anything differently that you would say to that person?
Yeah. I guess for me, like, to be informed, but not too informed. Find some people, but the YouTube community is so like wonderful. Instagram is wonderful. Find some people who are on that road or who have gone through it. Um,
Mm.
and that it is helpful to see that you're not alone. But I caution against like Dr. Google, just knowing too much. You have to be your own advocate. I had doctors that were like, it's time for IVF when I wasn't ready for IVF. And luckily, I had great doctors, but that's not always the easiest position to be in. So you just have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And above all, just pray. There's so many options when you're going through this process. There's so many roads you can go down. And it really was like through prayer that I got a lot of the clarity on where we were going, and when we were, to do different treatments and things like that, because it can be really overwhelming.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah. And I think I felt that even more. So when Camilla was one, we started the process to start to transfer our other embryos, because we had these 6 embryos waiting for us. And so we started the process again, and we naively thought, well, it worked last time,
Mhm.
it works last time. So we went through 4 transfers, kind of leading. Oh, go ahead.
Transferring one or two?
So in January of 2020, we transferred one, because it was a good well graded embryo. I don't know. I don't, again, I don't know the exact grade.
Yeah.
Um, but they said, well, that last one worked. Let's just do one. And so we did that, and it failed. Um, so the following month, February of 2020, we went back, transferred one. Now each time we're driving 3 hours, and we did
Mm.
this like back to back, month after month. But this, we knew what we were signing up for. So that second transfer, which technically would have been our third FET, um, was successful, but my HCG was 25, and oh, that was gut wrenching. And they said, "Well, with your daughter, your number was low, so we'll just, kind of keep." Now I'm doing the beta hell, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we miscarried with that
I'm
transfer.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, that's still really hard because as much as I had been through this journey, I'd never miscarried.
Yeah.
And it's just not a club I necessarily wanted to be a part of.
Right.
Yeah, so that was challenging. Um, and then we were able to transfer in March of 2020 when so many things were being shut down. I was really incredibly grateful that my clinic allowed me to continue my cycle because I was mid cycle when things really started shutting down. Um, and that is medication, it is
Yeah.
time, it is shots, it is so much to be in the thick of it. And they said, "There's no way we would stop you now."
Mm,
They were doing everything
good.
humanly possible to stay open for their clients, because they really respected that what everybody was going through,
Yeah.
so, and to do it safely and, as safely as they could for all of us. So I was really grateful for that because I was seeing, a lot of women say they were stopped mid-cycle, they were stopped, and I was really fortunate because it was March 20th. I mean, it was right, everything had just kind of shut down, especially here
Yeah.
in New York. So
Exactly.
um, I was able to we transferred 2 embryos at that time, but unfortunately that one failed as well.
Mm.
So um, we took a break because they weren't going to start any new cycles. Um, so I had a phone consult with the doctor at that time and just said, "Is there anything else that I can be doing to change my protocol to prepare for this?" We had 2 embryos left. And so we added a few things, we changed things a little bit. And
I'm about to sneeze. Sorry.
no, it's okay. It's a long story, Selena. No. So we were able to transfer our last 2 embryos in May of 2020. But unfortunately that failed as well. So,
Oh.
with every failed transfer, I just was that much more grateful for my daughter because she really is a miracle. She's a miracle. And I
Wow.
think everything I was doing, my doctor's really big on like the keto diet. I was doing keto prior to going to see him anyway, so I just stayed on that. And I have to say, for me, because I have some autoimmune issues, um, that I think put my body in the best state it possibly could at that time, like back, the initial retrieval and the initial transfer. Um, because so much, I mean, the doctor really felt like what I was suffering from was just all the inflammation in my body and attacking the embryos and just not allowing things to go as they should. And so I tried to do some of that leading up to all my transfers as well. You try and get as healthy as you can. And but it's really hard when you have a 1-year-old running around, literally running around. And so, we did everything that we could. And I'm grateful that we were able to at least um, transfer all of our embryos because that was our plan from the beginning, um, was to give them a chance.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that. Um, yeah, so now we're just back to trying, not trying to prevent anything. I have a lot of faith that if we're meant to have a sibling for Camilla, that they will come.
Yeah.
But I don't know at this point. I'm 39. Um, I don't know that I can do it again at this point, with everything. I'm not closing the door on it because I think anything is possible. I never say never, but um yeah, so just pray and hang on tight if you're going through it.
Yeah. There's so much power in prayer. There really is. I'd be lost. I'd be lost without prayer. I'd be
Yeah,
lost without the Lord, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. That is
I'm so
definitely my
I'm
feeling.
sorry. Oh, like that's it's heartbreaking. You have so many embryos and a number of embryos, and you think, okay, well, there's at least got to be another one.
Right.
It's hard. Well, I will be
And
praying for you.
thank
Yeah,
you. I
for
appreciate
sure.
that. Same too. Yeah, I don't know. I just Camilla is very blessed with 6 cousins that she's just obsessed with. So,
Yeah.
if our family is complete, then I feel like I've come to terms with that. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know, do I really want to do this again?
It's a lot of work.
Girl, it is a lot of work, but
It's a lot of
there's so much,
sacrifice.
yeah, exactly. But there's so much joy in that sacrifice, that sacrificial love.
Yes,
Like there's just nothing like it. And
it's true.
I love it. But at this point she's happy being an only child. So we'll
Good.
see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, enjoy her. I know how amazing it is to be able to dote and just adore and love on your little girl. So
Yeah,
enjoy it.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing your story with us today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for doing this,
Yeah.
allowing me a platform to share my story. And um, I just think it's such an inspired idea to kind of take your channel in this direction. I'm so grateful for it. And I really have enjoyed watching the other
Oh,
videos.
good.
And I feel like I'm
Good.
still part of the community in some way.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you ever leave, you
no,
know? I mean, no matter what, even if you get pregnant naturally, you still went through infertility. You still went through all of that. So that makes you a part of the club that you never asked to be in, but you can't exactly leave, you know?
whether we like it or not, right?
Exactly.